Oh, there we go. The red cookie. But oh, your car is red, but the bike isn't red. Why isn't the bike red? What happened there?
Well, I don't know. Too much red.
Too much. Couldn't find a good shade. Or gray was it metallic was easier to fix or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's just red is like there's so many different types of red. And a lot of people tell me like, why do you like reds? I don't know. Since I was a little kid, I have pictures of me as a little kid. I have a bunch of red.
Oh, there we go. All right. Talking about red issues today. We are back for another Tuesday topic. We got some great comments in the group about the different topics, and they've been really helpful for you guys. So that's great. I love that. We're gonna keep doing them. You guys keep giving us some good feedback, and we'll keep doing these events for you guys. So we've got another really good one today. Back with us here, back this time, is Chris from our sales team. And I think Chris knows a thing or two about lead conversion, lead follow-up. So I want, and he's a former ISA, so he's seen it from both ends of the spectrum, right? He's been on a campaign as an ISA, making calls, pounding the phone, and he's also been on the other side, working with our clients, working on the client side, working for the client, right? So kind of seen both ends of the spectrum, Chris. Here's an interesting, question for you, right? The question of the moment, right? Let's say I'm generating leads via online ads, inbound leads, but I'm also pounding the phone and I'm generating leads through cold calling, right? What's the difference between the two, right? One, you pay the platform to generate the lead for you. You pay the platform. You got to have a good ad, right? Got to get the message out. Got to be a good ad. But once you get that lead generated versus grabbing a cold list, the same one everybody has. Everybody's got that list. You're pounding the phone, trying to find qualified seller leads. That's what we want. We want qualified seller leads. What is the right way to do that?
Well, see, this is the thing. I love that you hit on that because I was talking to an agent actually a couple days ago about that because he was asking me like, hey, what's I know what the difference is, but like what type of follow-up would you do? And I tell him right off the bat, well, I can't tell you in specific one because they're so different. They're two completely different beasts. I can tell you why. Inbounds, not only I used to be an ISA, but I still do the same thing because again, I mean, when folks sign up, I consider those an inbound to my team. We have 9 ISAs on my team, 4 of which are inbounds, 4 are cold callers. I see this all the time. For inbounds, you got to do at least 10 to 15 touches once they come in. And excuse me, not once they come in that first week they're in. That first week, you're doing 10 to 15 touches.
And if you do that for a cold lead, they're going to call the cops on you probably, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's difference number one. That's a big one, guys. That's a big one, right? Big. And some people can, I mean, it's pretty dangerous to misunderstand that one because they can borderline harass someone if they have no idea who you are and you touch them 15 times in a week, right? So
they're not opting in.
First big difference, they're not opting in. They don't know who the heck you are. They couldn't care less, right? And if they're not responding, you got to let go. You can't just, 15 touches in a week is way too much. I think a couple touches in a week is more than enough. More than enough if you're doing calls. And yeah, there's compliance issues. There's more to it. There's more to it than that. Read the fine print, right? So that's a big difference. Initially, the inbound lead is opting in. You can pound them hard. That's one big difference, okay? Because that's night and day. You need automation for that. You probably need an ISA for that. And back in the day, Chris, we used to do this for inbound leads with our speed to lead service. We did 16, 17 touches in 30 days. Now I'm seeing people do 16, 17 touches within 2 weeks, within a week, right? Like it's getting even more intense now than it was a year or two ago. So that's a big difference. What else, man? What else would you, do the differences end there?
Oh, no. Even the follow-up is so different. So for cold calls, for example, this I talked to this agent. I love the way he just sees blunt. He doesn't care. He's like, I effed up. I'm like, well, what do you mean? The reason I'm calling you is because I effed up. If I didn't F up, I wouldn't be calling you. And I'm like, well, do say, right? He's like, well, okay, check this out. I do cold calls myself. And I like when agents say that, but I want to know that they're not just doing the talk, they're also doing the walk. So I'm like, okay, so how many dollars are you getting, on a weekly basis, right? And he was telling me about his numbers, telling me this and that. And I'm like, well, okay, if you're doing the calls yourself, like, I understand why you would want an ISA, maybe to double that, but like, how are you messing up? I mean, it sounds like good numbers because when people tell me to follow up in a month from now, I actually listen to them. Oh, right there, I stopped and I was like, big error, big error. It's happened to me. It's happened to me like at the beginning. So if they tell me a week from now, I'm calling in that week. Like in a month from now, excuse me, I'm calling in a week. like that. I'm not gonna wait till they tell me, because so many
I
things
got
can
you.
happen in that period.
So he's
Right?
saying, the generic answer. I'm a year out. I'm 6 months out. He calls him in 6 months, and they've already transacted. Is what's happening to him.
He's like,
Got it. Got it.
bro,
Got
and
it.
not to
Got
mention,
it.
this is the worst part. He says that they're using his listings because he doesn't actually geofarm. He doesn't do just listed and just sold. That's another huge error. I'm like, then you're just
Mm.
normally cold calling. Like, so much low-hanging fruit that's around. You're just listed and just sold. There's people that like that you're local, you're in their
Oh, so he's
area.
just carpet bombing. He's just carpet
Yeah.
bombing the neighborhoods with no reason to call. Just saying, hey, want to list your house? Wow,
Have you ever considered
gutsy.
buying or selling?
That's
I'm
gutsy.
like, yeah. And I was like,
Oh,
holy cow.
and those are the leads he's dropping later, months later. Oh my God. Oh wow,
Look at
man.
all the effort he's doing to get
Yeah.
nowhere. To get
Wow,
nowhere.
that's difficult. But here's a good. Again, I'm an optimist, right? So I would tell you. Well, the good news is you found a really good lead generation method. Your follow up is weak. That's it, right? Your
That's it.
follow up game is not on point. So, Chris, if you hear this guy, well, I mean, this literally happened. This guy's telling you what happened. How does he fix that? Okay, he's generating leads. He's talking to qualified sellers. The problem is they're not working with him. They're
No.
not, and a shock to you guys. This might be shocking, but after one conversation with someone, they're not going to give you a call back and come list me a month
Oh
later.
no. Oh no.
I
Yeah,
wish
forget
it
about
worked
that.
that way. I wish it worked that way, right? It doesn't work that way. You found them. You might be competing with maybe one other agent, maybe zero agents, right? At that
Yeah.
moment, in that moment. But when the time comes, they're not going to even remember who you are, right? A month later,
Yeah.
if you do no follow-up game, no follow-up process, they're not going to remember who you are. They
No,
do
they
want to
won't.
sell their home, and they're going to ask their mom and their son and their neighbor and their cousin and their coworker, "Hey, who's a good agent? I need to sell my home." Or they're going to go out and look for a sign out in the street. Oh, this person looks like they do a good job. That's what they're going to do, because that's what they always do. But if you've identified them as a hand raiser, potential seller, what I call a qualified seller lead, which is the job here,
Yeah.
then you've got a leg up in this game, except if you don't follow up appropriately, right?
That, and like, that's what got me thinking. I'm like, bro, like, how are you like letting all this like low hanging fruit just fall through the cracks? Like, I understand, like, you're busy, you get busy, but see, then he tells me, well, I set up appointments, but I mean, they're still far out. See, that's the thing. Like, if you're expecting appointments with us right off the bat, and I like to be blunt with everybody that I talk to knows this. I like to be blunt. I want to give you numbers. And I usually tell them, look, depending on how harsh, and let me repeat this, depending on how harsh your requirements are, is the flow of appointments that you're going to get in. So if you're telling me I don't want to speak with anybody that's 3 months out, okay, I'll follow up with them up until maybe they're 2 to 3 weeks out, right? And then hand them over to you, and a good appointment, a good handoff, because they understand you're not just going out there to perform a CMA, you're going out there with the intent of listing the property, right? It's just sometimes agents need to hand some of those leads over. Why? They just don't have enough time. I mean, with showings, the family, or maybe a couple extra things that they're doing on the side. I know some agents that are doing flips, they're listing properties. Like, holy cow, that's why I got so much love for agents. Like, there is no weekly paycheck. It's like, you got problems, like
Gotta
money
hustle.
problems, pick up the phone. You want a new car? Pick up the phone. It's that simple. That's how crazy real estate is to me. It's really a
It's
numbers game.
simple, but not easy. It's simple though.
Yeah.
It is that simple. It is that simple. Talk to more people, have more real estate focused conversations every day, and good things are going to happen. So, Chris, you generating those leads, pounding the phone, doing it. What do you do differently? You're saying, hey, if they're 6 months out, you're calling in 3 months, you're calling in 2 months, you're calling next month. Our good friend and coach and client, Brandon Morenin, says he doesn't care. He calls them once a month, regardless of what number they say. He doesn't care. He says everyone in his list gets called the first of the month, every month. Who cares? If they're 6 months out, if they're 8 months out, if they're 12 months out, he reaches out to everyone in that farming list and that follow-up list once a month. Do you think that's good advice? Cold leads, by the way. Brandon is a cold leads guy. He's a prospecting guy. Expired for sale by owner, absentee owner, all these things, right? So he's a cold lead guy, and he says no matter what, once a month they're gonna get a call from me.
That's like, I would say that should be like implemented regardless of the situation. Like, that should be code. That should be like sales Bible code that you're going to follow up with them at least once a month if they say they're 6 months out. However, if they tell you they're a month out, you're not going to wait that month. Maybe wait a
Oh,
week,
no,
2
no,
weeks
no, no,
tops.
no. Forget it. Yeah, 100%. I'm so thank you for bringing up that point, because this is where the nuance comes in, guys. This is where
Yes.
this is where it gets subjective, right? It's hard to come up with one rule that covers every situation, right? If that number for me, this is when I did this. If the number if they're indicating that they're less than 6 months out, this is what I would do when I had leads. And I mostly did this with, Zillow, Google PPC. We didn't really do Facebook at a high level back then, but it was Google PPC and it was Zillow. If they indicated in any way, shape, or form that they were less than 6 months out, I consider that now business, right?
Yeah.
Because of the time frames involved. It could be 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. It didn't matter to me. Like, this is now business. Got to pursue the right? You got to go into it assuming that it's going to happen sooner rather than later, because you don't want to be that guy that's there eagerly awaiting your call. I'm eagerly awaiting your call. Whenever you're ready, Chris, whenever you're ready, I'm here to whip out my pen and take your order, sir. Tell me what you want. Just tell me exactly what you want. Reach out exactly when you want to, and I'm going to take your order. It doesn't work that way, right? We're not order takers. We're not order takers. That is a kind of a recipe for failure, right? Recipe for failure. You got to be on top of it, and you got to be following up with these leads. So, Chris, we're saying the word follow up. I give it. We're all the same thing. Let's get specific, man. This is what these sessions are for. Tuesday topic. Let's get down to the nitty gritty details. When we say follow up, is it a call? Is it an email? Is it a text? Is it a just checking in? What is a solid? I think we have an example here of what your follow up game looks like for deals that you close. But I don't know if we have that now. But I'll bring it up later. But what does follow up look like? Is it call? Is it text? Is it email? Are you doing all three? What does it look like when you're trying to follow up with these leads, whether it's on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis?
See, it depends. If it's like cold, then again, just the numbers we said is like, it should be standard, like literally real estate standard. You're going to follow up with them at least once a month. If they're like 6, 7, 8 months out. If they're less than that, you're going to cut that time in half. You're not going to wait. Somebody's going to pretty much get them in front of them.
Oh,
and
100%. It's now business. It's now business.
So now, however, inbounds, it's a whole different beast, because you see there, see, this is the crazy part. We generate Facebook leads. We have a team that does this. We've seen that typically just to get a hello from the agent, it typically takes 10 to 15 touches. That's like standard. Again, we should make this industry standard for what is lead generation, and pretty much like the type of follow-up you should have that first day. Like literally 10 to 15 touches, you're just going to get a hello. And if you're expecting, I usually tell folks, look, if you could generate 100 to 150 inbound leads, you should see like on average, like 10 to 16 to an appointment, 7 to 12 to a live transfer. And it usually takes like 30 to 40 days to get those results. And they're like, oh, why does it take that long? I mean, they're opting in. Yes, they're opting in, but you're not going to get a hello. How can I help? No, you're basically going to get a bunch of voicemails. They're not opting in. Yeah, they're not opting in just in Facebook. They're opting in a ton of other places. They're getting bombarded. Bombarded. So again, 100%. Industry standard, 10 to 15 touches, industry standard.
I think you should, and I think you should combine those, right? Call, text, and email. You shouldn't just go one of the three. But I think it's important for people to understand. In my opinion, this is just me, Gus. Calls and texts are the game. Calls and text messages. Email, you can do email. I'm not against email. I want people to understand that. I'm not against email. Just understand, in this inbound lead generation game, an email is not going to get you a response. Just to be clear, right? It's not going to help you set up an appointment, set up a call. The email is not going to be useful for that. I will say this, right? If you're accumulating these inbound leads, if you're accumulating these qualified sellers through cold calling, I think a really smart thing is to put them on an email newsletter for nurturing, like long-term nurturing, not to set appointments with them, right? Let's say how it is. I found that our newsletter, even for PowerISA, which, by the way, has like 3,000 people on it and a 40% open rate, right? That's a pretty good newsletter, right? But the point is, we use it for long-term nurturing, staying in front of folks, giving them something valuable, giving them some of our videos, inviting them to the next webinar. We're going to have a webinar next week, by the way, right? So we had one last week, by the way, right? So we're always trying to provide value to folks every which way. And newsletters is another way to do that, right? But that being said, if you want to get a response from an inbound lead, email, and we've measured this very, very closely. Email can account for like 1%. of appointments set. If you look
Yep.
at a large enough sample of leads, it's about, I think, which is essentially zero, guys. Come on, let's be honest, right? You can get 100 leads and none of them are going to convert over email. Email serves a purpose. Okay. Email serves a purpose. But if you want to get that direct response from that inbound lead and try to connect with them ASAP, it's going to be a calling and a texting game. That's essentially it. And in some of these markets, I'm pretty sure it's a 50%, a 70% texting game at this point.
I agree. Because when I used to do that, even now we've seen this. Like agents sometimes don't even check their email. Like it's like the normal Joe. They don't really check their email. But if you text them, if you call them, they will pick up. And that's the reason why I like this game, which is like, sales. Because if I call a lead on a Sunday, God forbid I call a lead on a Sunday, they are going to be ticked off. But if I call an agent on a Sunday, he's not only going to acknowledge like the hustle, like they encourage you to do more. They'll be like, hey man, I'm not your type of client, but hey, keep on the hustle, man. That is great that you're calling on a Sunday, man. Kudos to you. Keep it up.
There you go. I mean, the agent is a different beast, right? They're weekend warriors, right? And me, in my years as an active agent, my work week, my off day, a little bit of an off day was maybe Thursday, Friday. It was a little bit of like a slower day. Like Thursday, Friday was slower. My on days, 100% started. My week started on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And you can work you work 7 days a week, not full days every single day, But I remember my first year as an agent, I've never worked more hours. I've never worked harder in the span of hours. I've never worked more hours than my first year in real estate. And I don't think I ever will. Quite frankly, I don't think I ever will. And I realized a light bulb went off in my head. Like, hey, if you work more, you make more money. Like what? And coming from a software, I had a pretty good job. I was able to double my income my first year in real estate, and I was coming from a really high earning profession, right? And I was like, what? And then the real, oh my god! So yeah, I had to pull back because you burn out, right? You can't go 100%, 100 miles an hour full time the whole time. But it was like mind blowing for me, and for those people to say kudos to you, right? It's like game recognizes game. They go, okay, cool, man, that's cool, that's good. That's a nudge. It's nice. An acknowledgement. I like it as an acknowledgement. But let's get back to it, Chris. Let's get back to the topic, right? So we're talking about that follow-up call text intensive, weekly or monthly, kind of depending on the scenario. Once you actually talk to the lead, Chris, let's go to the next step. This is part of the follow-up game too, right? You're actually going to talk to them at some point. Is there any significant difference when you're talking to a lead that came from cold calling versus a lead that came from that, online marketing, inbound lead marketing? Once you're actually, so you're doing the follow-up is different. I agree with you. It's more intense on the warm lead. It's a little bit more laid back initially on the cold lead. Once you've qualified them and you're following up with them, do you say something different to the warm lead versus the cold lead? Is there anything like that, or is that game a lot closer?
This depends a lot on how the agent wants to run it, because once they got in contact, like once I set up the appointment went all well. Now I'm following up with the agent. I am literally lighting a fire under his butt. Like, hey man, what's going on? Like,
this is when you were in ISA. This is working within the
Yes.
team. Like you're generating these leads, generating these appointments. Now you're okay. So your intense follow up,
Is now towards the agent.
Yeah, we won't mention any names.
No.
But your work, and this is very common. This is nothing unique about any one team.
No.
You talk about large real estate teams, and we're talking about 10, 15, 20, 30 person teams. You got to help the agents do their job. As an ISA, this is part of the job description, in my opinion. Got to help the agents do their job.
Some accountability, if anything, just like, hey, I sent you Bob a couple of days ago. Want to see how that went? Are you going to follow up? Do you want me to follow up? Where do we go from here? He seemed pretty interested. And there's at times where they have a preferred lender, which in my personal opinion is top when you're working with inbound leads, because this way we could get them. Like there's a little bit of there's like a double-sided thing to this, because some agents say, you know what? I'd rather talk to them first. I want to cater to them first, and then I'll send them over to the lender. And there's agents that tell me, no, let's go to the lender first. Let's see what they could get approved for. So that way I can market them like within their budget, right? So they can fall in love with the home that they can afford. I'm a little towards that end because it worked quite well with me. But then there's a couple of agents that I talked and they told me they use the other method. And I'm like, well, it doesn't sound like a bad idea. You're the agent, they get to know you. Then they go to the preferred lender. I could see it working out, but I think both ways are great. Just the only thing is the follow-up that comes with. See, because this is what I tell agents. Look, me as an ISA, I'm not in it for the weekly paycheck. you know this as well, Gus,
Huh.
like most people don't believe me. I don't make much on my weekly paycheck. I make more on bonuses because that's what has to drive the ISA, right?
You want to go hunt. You want to go hunt, right?
I
Whether it's
love it.
inbound or outbound,
Yeah.
you got to be driven by that to some extent, right? I think it's I don't think I don't know an ISA, or good ISA. Let me say that, right? That their goal is to make that hourly rate. It's not enough for them. They want more, right? They want more, and the way to get that, like I said, is 100% of those bonuses, crushing those goals, not just doing the bare minimum, doing what's expected, right? Going above and beyond and crushing those goals. That's going to get you that additional income, right? That little
There's
extra,
a but to
what
it,
should drive people. Go
but
for it.
there's a but to it. There's a huge but to it. Again, being super blunt with agents, you gotta put in work. I'm just being
Oh,
blunt with you guys because see,
100%.
they expect the ISA right off the bat know all these things. I'm not saying that they don't. Some of them do, but see, you gotta show them the type of worth ethic that you want them to pretty much bestow, right? Because me personally, like when I first started, I wasn't like I didn't know all these things. I didn't know that I had to do all this, but then I started noticing, right? Like some of my ISAs actually notice it proactively because that's how they are, but they started noticing right away, like, oh, hey, if I do this, and that's what I started noticing. Some agents sometimes need a little push, like, hey, Bob said he was pretty much getting pre-approved already. Have you followed up just to check to make sure he's already pre-approved so we could get him on the right track? Things of that nature. Because again, sometimes it's not that the agents like don't want to do the work. It's just you forget sometimes. Sometimes you're writing a contract.
100%.
Somebody sends in that happened to me. They were writing a contract. Somebody called. They didn't pick up. They sent the text, however, which is what the good thing because it came into the CRM. I
Yeah.
saw it. I'm like, holy cow, I know who this is. I'm like, I need to get in contact with the agent. And he's just like, oh man, sorry, I'm literally on a contract. It's her. I'm like, yes, man. She says she's ready to go. She's interested. She already knows because that's the thing. At the brokerage where I was at, they did a lot for marketing, so they knew who we were. And
Got it.
not to
Got
mention
it.
the broker was like really well known in the area. So because
Yeah,
of this, like that benefited me a ton, like
I
a
got it.
ton.
And that's huge. And one thing you mentioned earlier about should the agent or the lender talk to them first? I think that's an interesting one. My preference always been the agent because they tend to be the better salesperson.
True.
However, there are some lenders out there that are outstanding on the phone. And there's some lenders out there, a lot of them are our clients that have ISAs in house, right? They've got ISAs that they're working with. They've got ISAs ISA teams they've built. We've helped them build. Because they like to do this, Chris, they reach out to agents, and instead of just trying to be their buddy and be their pal, like, you have leads, I'll call them for you. I will call your leads for you. I'll call your leads for you, get you some business, and let's see if they have a loan or not, right? Are they pre-approved? Would they like another quote, like another and a little more information, right? And I think that's brilliant. I am shocked that more loan officers don't do that. And if you don't have an ISA, you are the ISA. Loan officers pick up the phone. You got to be good though, right? That's what I would caveat that with, Chris. I think you're right. Some people can have the lender go first, some people can have the agent go first. But I definitely would say that at the end of the day, whoever's better on the phone should go first. I mean, and that can vary. It can be different, right?
I've heard some loan officers because they do call us from not from time to time, but like sometimes it's crazy how some weeks it's just like all loan officers. It's like not really like real estate
True.
agents, like a ton of loan
True.
officers. I'm like, okay. So then I start talking to them and they start telling me, oh yeah, I got a buddy of mine. He's an agent. So we're basically gonna, me with the ISA, generate the leads. Once we do something, he's gonna give me a referral. So it's like a win-win for everybody. I'm like, by all means, that's a win-win for everybody. You get
100%.
a piece of the cake, they get a piece of the action, everybody wins. But this is what I tell them, look, but now with your ISA, remember you got to bonus them. And because you can't bonus on a certain thing, you can bonus on appointments, you can bonus on all sorts of things. That we give you the best practices. That's what a lot of people, it
Right.
gets to me, right? Because I tell them we got a 30-day training, right? And then they're like, oh, so I'm not going to see them for 30 days? No. So we start training them since day one, but they're already
Yeah,
working with you. They're probably making calls day
100%.
2 or day 3. Like, no joke.
Yeah,
These guys
they're on
already
the
have
phone.
sales
They're on the phone.
experience, like not necessarily real estate. That's what I'm super clear of. Not real estate, but that's where we come in. We've been doing this since
Yeah.
2008, 2015. That's 8 years.
If you have a good caller, someone that sounds good on the phone, that's got that skill, right? Can talk to a stranger on the phone, hold that conversation. We can teach them real estate. We can teach them the CRM. And I have empathy because a lot of agents, They want to have ISAs or candidates with a lot of experience because they feel they're going to save a bunch of time. And I'm telling you, don't look at it wrong. You're looking at it the wrong way.
Headache.
Right?
Big
You're looking at it the wrong way. You get the wrong person with the wrong attitude, the wrong work ethic in the chair, but they have real estate experience. I always go skills based. Who has the better skills? Who do I think is going to be a better teammate? We'll teach them real estate. We'll teach them follow-up boss. We'll teach them chime. We'll teach them, right? That's what we help out with, right? And you can teach them your local knowledge, local area, what the good areas, the best school districts, right? The best neighborhoods. You can teach them that. That's very teachable, very teachable. What I can't teach someone is to not be afraid of the phone. I haven't found a way to do that. You either have it or you don't. I can't teach them to have the right work ethic, right? And I can't teach them to have the right values to be a pro. I can't teach them that. That part is the one you should focus on 100%. Everything else, they sound good on the phone. We can teach them everything else. And that's really the key. So Chris, we're almost out of time here. If you had one more thing to tell people about following up with either warm or cold leads, what thought, what question, what point do you want to leave them with, or what recommendation would you give them kind of going forward?
So with inbound leads, call, text, email, I would actually go as far as to, if I had the information of like when they click on our ad, right? I'll get their name, I'll look them up because I used to have a Facebook. That's the thing. Have your ISA help you with your Facebook. Like that.
Oh man, oh man, we should do another session just on that. We should do another because we've done that in our company.
Yeah.
We've seen agents do it. ISAs help other agents. We should do another session just on that, right? How to have your ISA help you even on Facebook, 100%.
It's because that's the key, right? It's like, I get that agents don't want to let go. I mean, I'm that type of guy as well. Like, I don't want to let go because I feel like the job's not going to get done. But you need to learn to let go, and you need to learn how to teach the ISA. It's not something so hard. It's simple, and that's only, again, I always tell folks, look, the only con in our system, and again, in front of the CEO as we speak, only con for our system is you got to put in work, and we're not talking something crazy. Hour and a half a day for the first 2 to 3 weeks. Why? This is going to help your ISA not only be knowledgeable in the area, sound local on the phone, which is what everybody wants nowadays, someone that sounds local, but it's also going to give them the ability to have the confidence to reach out to you when we're out of the picture. Because remember, they got two options. Either we continue managing them, or they grab the bull by the horns, do it on their own. So they got those two options. I usually tell them, look, honestly, it's sometimes better. We could do it done for you. We can, but give us a month. So we could basically make it tailor fit. There, I can tell you by all means, we could set up an autopilot here, right? We already know your processes. We know your systems. We know what you're trying to accomplish. But if you want it right off the bat, we're not a good fit.
Happen.
We're not a good fit.
Right? Gotta go into it with realistic expectations, Chris. I think that's the key. That's the key. We don't want to give people the impression that, all you do is give Gus your credit card and we're good to go. The appointments will be coming in, flowing in after day one. It's not going to happen, right? Gotta give people the right expectation and show them the results we've actually been able to get for folks, across the US and Canada. So Chris, again, thank you, man. It was a banger. It was a good one. Really good session today. So folks, if you're always curious about the difference between warm lead conversion, warm lead follow-up, cold lead conversion, cold lead follow-up, this is a great one today. So check it out. All right, Chris, thank you so much. And I'll see you guys here on the next one. Thanks, man.